Thank you everybody for attending this meeting early in the morning. My name is Representative Helena Hayes, and I'd like our other members to introduce themselves. Representative Heather Matson.
Representative Henderson.
Okay, so before we begin, this bill, I'm going to review what it does because there apparently seems to be some confusion about it. So this bill does four things. Regarding legal names, it states that the school board shall not take disciplinary action in the use of a legal name when a teacher, a student, an employee, a contractor uses somebody's legal name. The school board shall not take disciplinary action against them for the use of that legal name. Regarding student names, the school board shall not take disciplinary action when a student's name, as recorded in their school registration or on their records for enrollment, is used. And this applies to employees, contractors, and students. Regarding the forced use of pronouns in official communication, this bill states that no disciplinary action shall be taken from the school board when one does not want to use pronouns on official communication. Lastly, number 4, if an employee is terminated because of any of the above, a civil action may be taken. And then, of course, the bill defines disciplinary action and what that includes. So, we welcome testimony at this time. I ask that when you come up to testify that you state your name, whether you're for or against the bill, who you represent, and why you have your position. Please remember to stick to things pertaining to the bill alone, the 4 things that I just stated. We do have a committee meeting in here, top of the hour, so that will keep us having to move fairly quickly here. If you're speaking in favor of the bill, I'd like you to take that position that faces that's on the east side of the table here. If you're going to speak against the bill, I'd like you to take that position on the west side of the table, and we will alternate so we can hear from both sides. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes. And with that, let's begin.
This is the side for against, yes.
Correct, good job.
Hayden Crow, one Iowa, we were registered against this bill. I continue to be confused by what we are exactly trying to accomplish here. When SF 496 was passed in 2023, there was a component in that bill that made parents of transgender students send a signed form indicating how they would like faculty and staff to address their child. We were told at that time this was about parents' rights and their right to control what their student is called during the school day. Now apparently we don't care about parents' rights or what they want their student to be called. I just want us to have some consistency on what we're doing in this space. I think a parent sending in a note saying, please call my student this name is crystal clear in terms of what the parent wants. And if we are saying that parents have the final say in every aspect of their child's education, that should be the end of this discussion. Now, one thing I will make is that we actually support section 2, subsection 2 in the bill, which starts on page 1, line 25. We don't think that people should be forced to disclose their pronouns in official communications, and we would resist efforts to require that. So, if we could pare this bill down to just that section, we would have a bill that I think we could all agree on. I encourage us to go that route and to reject the rest of the bill on the grounds that not only will it be harmful to these children, but also on the grounds that it violates the previously expressed philosophical commitment to centering parents in their child's education.
Hi, I'm Patty Alexander, and I'm a mom, and I'm also a substitute teacher. I'm a retired teacher after 30 years, and I substitute in different buildings just to help out. So I just am here as a substitute teacher sharing my stories. Well, I want to tell you about Child A, who or Charlie, excuse me, who I would call Charlie to protect her privacy. So she told students that she hated her name that her parents gave her. So the students in the classroom, and she said that she wanted to be called a different name. So the students in the classroom bullied her and used that against her and taunted her with the fact that she didn't want to be called her name that her parents gave her. So that was one interruption and disruption to the class. Another story I want to tell you, who I will call student A, who had a kind heart, cared about others, and wanted to be friends with everybody. So she went to school and she called her friend the name that he wanted to be called the day before. He raised his fist at her and said, "Don't ever call me that name again." And she's going, "But that's what you told me to call you yesterday." Evidently, he had changed from the day before. So these are just two examples that cause behavior problems in the classroom, cause instructional disruptions. I think this bill would alleviate the mentioned behavior problems. It could be a springboard for clarity on school policy, and it would also help restore the desperately needed trust between educators, students, and parents. I support this bill. Thank you.
It's so hard not to wear a method act. I know, believe me. This is gonna be hard. This child, come right here. It'll alternate for and against, for and against.
Hi, my name is JD. Today I'm protesting a new bill. Staff and students who misgender and misname kids. This is wrong because it can hurt kids mentally and physically, and force kids back into hiding. When I came out, people misgendered and misnamed me. It hurt me a lot. And it will not just hurt trans kids. One day, a boy that had long hair, the teacher, instead of using he/him pronouns, used she/her as just a force to be mean to the student. Or a kid that does not like being called the legal name and instead likes being called the nickname. Students and staff are allowed to call them the legal name instead of the nickname. This bill can hurt a lot of kids. I have been misgendered. I wanted to die when it happened to me. I also got misnamed. I wanted to run home and die. This is why I do not like this bill. This bill allows kids to be bullied if we make this a law, and it will hurt them. Thank you for your time.
Nathan Arnold, I'm with Professional Educators of Iowa, registered in favor of the bill. Teachers are increasingly having to navigate a complex legal landscape, and they're fairly accustomed to that, but none takes the cake as much as this particular one. And teachers need a safe haven to know this is the name I use, the name black and white written down in front of me, the name that was given by the student and the parents, then I'm safe to use this name. I'd say there's a lot of support for this bill amongst teachers. I won't say it's universal, but there's a lot of support from teachers who can't speak out in favor of it. A, because they're teaching today, but B, because the backlash against their school would be pretty intense, and so they have to keep their mouths shut to avoid making a scene, but they do support this bill. Essentially, it helps two kinds of teachers. A, it helps teachers who basically can't keep up because of concepts such as gender fluidity. A student may change what they want to be called within the hour or within the day. And if a teacher inadvertently makes a mistake amongst one of their many dozens of students, it could theoretically instantly be career-ending depending on how the reaction to that goes. So that's why they need that safe haven. And then the second, of course, is teachers who are conscientious objectors and want to use the name that the student has been given. Now, it's important to note that both the legal name in the school records and even the legal name in official records can be changed with the consent of the parents, and so those can be adjusted if there's some sort of permanent, thought-out change change that the student isn't going to go back on. The other thing to keep in mind is this does not prevent teachers from using a different name than the legal name, so long as the parents have been notified. It just protects them from disciplinary action, including termination, if they were to make a mistake. Teachers don't actually, in their capacity as teachers, have First Amendment rights. They're basically the government when they're in their
Thank you,
teaching
Mr.
capacity.
Howell. That is 2 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Grayson Chalka, a bottom rep for our high school, and I am transgender and against this bill. I have had to justify my name and my identity constantly since I came out 5 years ago. For a while in my school, my teachers were the only people who supported me in my identity. They were majorly important for keeping me alive and keeping me safe. HF80 serves to put transgender students in danger. These students might already have full support from family and friends, but they might be in a school where being outed or dead named is dangerous. This bill puts trans students at risk of further bullying from those around them and allows for blatant disrespect from teachers and other students who are supposed to uplift and support all students. The bill could only do harm to transgender students, allowing for bullying of a group that already has a suicide attempt rate of 40%. Is this the kind of school, or is this the kind of environment we want to foster in our schools? I hope not. Regardless of politics, schools should protect every single student. A bill that targets students like this is shameful.
Another thing here in favor of the bill. Just want to point out to the subcommittee that recently, December 2024, a little over a month ago, the Virginia West Point School Board was required to pay $575,000 in damages and attorney's fees after trying to force a teacher to use pronouns that did not agree with the biological sex of a child. So Alliance Defending Freedom, Representative Stone, I know you're well familiar with them, represented the teacher and says, quote, "We have many teachers contacting us on this issue," unquote. This has become an issue that we need to address, in part because we taxpayers don't want to get stuck with these several $100,000 awards and fees when a teacher does what their conscience leads them to do, and then they get disciplined, and then they sue, and then they win. So please pass this bill and help we taxpayers not get stuck with these kind of awards. Thank you.
My name is Barry Stevens. I'm a freshman at Valley Southwoods. I'm 14 years old and I'm from Australia then. My expectation is that you address me that way. I deserve that basic respect. This law enables adults and students in our public schools to go out of their way to dehumanize others. When I was in 6th grade, I first decided to transition to different pronouns and a different name. Since then, I have had kids constantly use my own name as a weapon against me. You have no idea what it's like having to wake up each morning wondering how your peers are going to try and hurt you next, just because you present yourself slightly differently. And why would it be acceptable for the professionally trained adults who are meant to protect me be allowed to intentionally cause me harm without any consequences? If you pass this bill, you are actively supporting demeaning and degrading behavior towards me. I deserve to feel safe at school, and this bill actively endangers my health and safety. Vote no for this bill.
Emotional demands to unilaterally change our common language norms are increasingly popular and effective employed by radical social engineers. These passive-aggressive tactics effectively bully, confuse, and unsuspecting populace into unwittingly accepting otherwise unpersuasive ideas. These mass manipulation attempts must cease to be entertained. What's really at stake here, it seems to me, is will our state allow our culture's long-held language norms to be co-opted to push gender identity politics in our schools no less, or will we stand against these sorts of covert contractors? The proposal, as I read it, targets giving individual convening ought not punish people, whether it be teachers, students, or other folks, for simply utilizing a person's legal name over civil action. Again, we support the bill.
My name is Sarah. I'm an 18-year-old trans man who recently graduated a semester early from Valley High School. And I can say with certainty, as someone who has already struggled with school as is through various learning disabilities untreated, being referred to with pronouns that did not reflect my identity, even with permission and expression from my mom, made my school experience increasingly more difficult, hence why I graduated early, to get out of that situation that made me feel unsafe and unaccepted. And it is incredibly disorienting and confusing to have to live every day with fundamental parts of your identity being disrespected, despite the fact that me being transgender doesn't really affect anyone at all but me. And it doesn't take an arm and a leg to call me he or him. It just takes the smallest bit of effort to remember, which I'm not going to get mad or report an adult with 130 other students, because slip-ups are completely okay, they're understandable, but rampant use of such language is where it becomes a problem, and when it's clearly intentional is when it becomes a problem. And when if a teacher is blatantly disrespecting a student in this way, especially in a situation where a parent has already approved the use of different pronouns or a different name other than their legal name, then that's kind of just petty at that point, and discrimination should not be protected under the law. It should be prevented directly under the right to pursue happiness, as very first stated in the preamble of the Constitution. So, thank you for your time. Please vote no.
Good morning, my name is Anita Fisher. I'm registering in favor of this bill. I represent Protect My Innocence. My message is simple.
Could you please push the volume button so everybody can hear?
One on the right.
Should I start over?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my name is Anita Fisher, and I represent Protect My Innocence. My message is clear. We need to be proactive rather than reactive in situations like this for the sake of our teachers. So I have here a list from www.lgbtqnation.com. And unfortunately, this list of 85 pronouns is incomplete, as people come up with group pronouns all the time, it says. The pronouns that are changed from day to day are gender fluid or in a constant state of flux. These are called rolling pronouns. I don't know how we can expect teachers and students to constantly be on top of rolling pronouns. Teachers need to be defended. They are not out to make children feel out of place or awkward. That is not their state. That is not what they're there. That's not what they signed up to be when they came to be a teacher. Also, I'd like to say that we need to represent grammar. These teachers that are trying to teach grammar are struggling. How do you teach they, them, and also teach proper grammar? That's basically all I have to say, but I ask you to please.
Melissa Peterson, the Iowa State Education Association. We're registered in opposition to this bill for a whole host of reasons, but I would just like to take a moment to appreciate all the individuals who are worried about our teachers. I represent an organization that represents more than 55,000 education professionals in this state. I will tell you all three, with respect of the representatives sitting at this table, had an opportunity to vote on Senate File 496. Two of you voted in favor, in part because it had a provision that said education professionals, school employees, and contract employees have to refer to our students by the name that is in the register. This bill is unnecessary. It is a problem, or rather a solution in search of a problem. We represent education professionals at the bargaining table and also in disciplinary hearings before the Board of Educational Examiners. We have not had such a situation where there has been disciplinary action taken against an ISEA member because someone has unintentionally used a name that was not in the register or was in the register. Many of the concerns that have been expressed here today are in other states. Virginia, for example, we are not Virginia. Virginia does not have a Senate File 496. This legislation is unnecessary. I would also argue it's a distraction from more important issues that are facing us in our public classrooms today. Let's be respectful of the education professionals and the students they serve. Let the legislation that is still working its way through the rules process stand so we can all get up to speed on this issue. Thank you.
We are beginning to come to the close of our meeting. I'm going to take one last speaker so we have even representation.
I'm Amber Williams, and I am actually representing a parent who shared this story with me last year, as this also affects students, not just teachers. At a local middle school, a teacher who identifies as non-binary asked students to use teacher as a pronoun. This happened last year. On the second day of school, a student accidentally addressed the teacher as Mrs. The teacher responded with a harsh look, and when the confused student hesitated and said, "Mister?" the teacher scolded him in front of the entire class. And the student was then required to write an apology to his classmates, explaining why his words were considered disrespectful. This student had been taught that there are two genders, male and female, and that pronouns aligned with those genders. Expecting him to unlearn this overnight and punishing him for following what he was taught at home overstepped professional boundaries. This incident raises concerns about ideological pressure in schools and underscores the need for clear policies to protect students, teachers, and staff from being penalized for their beliefs. House File 80 is about fairness, free speech, and protecting personal choice. It ensures that no one is forced to say something that they don't believe while still allowing for respectful interactions in schools. It keeps education focused on learning while safeguarding individual rights. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I do hope this bill moves forward.
Thank you very much. We have about 7 minutes left in this room, and I'd like to give time to Representative Matson and Representative Stone to speak on the bill.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to everyone who came and spoke today, but I especially want to say thank you to JD for sharing a very personal story that I have to imagine was incredibly difficult. JD, where are you? Oh, there you are. That I imagine was incredibly difficult to share, and I just want you to know that you are seen, heard, and loved. So thank you for being here today. I just want to acknowledge that people can have whatever feelings they want. There is no state law that could ever be passed to say you're not allowed to feel what you feel. However, with all due respect to the person who I cannot remember who it was, who talked about being conscientious objectors, you cannot be a conscientious objector to treating others with basic human decency. I believe it's an expectation that we teach our kids not to bully and to treat others as we wish to be treated. That is what I was taught in Sunday school. Treat others as you wish to be treated. And with all due respect, gender